Namaskaram and hello, dear friends. Today we are going to study a very important Canadian philosopher, Marshall McLuhan. So, in your syllabus, the technological determinism, critique of Marshall McLuhan's views on media and communication. These topics are mentioned. So, let's start. So, the source for making this PPT is the book McLuhan for Beginners by W. Terence Gordon, illustrated by Suzanne Wilmert. You can find this book in your library also, and you can read this book. I would suggest you to read this book first and then watch this video as a summary or revision. Although I have covered all the important points from the book, but if you want, you can read the book. And from exam point of view, the name of his important works and the concept of technological determinism is important. So remember the name of his books and also the concept of technological determinism. So let's start. Marshall McLuhan, the man Playboy magazine called the high priest of pop cult and the metaphysician of media. When Wired, which is a terminally hip, future friendly magazine of the computer age, was hyper-conceived, Marshall McLuhan was chosen as the magazine's patron saint. So he was also featured in the magazine Wired. McLuhan was an obscure Canadian professor of English till he published Understanding Media, The Extension of Man in 1964. It was one of the popular books of Marshall McLuhan, Understanding Media, The Extensions of Man. McLuhan was born in 1911 in Edmonton, Canada and raised in Winnipeg. He received his BA and MA from University of Manitoba and earning a second BA in English literature from Cambridge University in 1936. By 1980, the year McLuhan died. So he died in 1980. Uh, a question was asked on in which year McLuhan died. So remember the year 1980. And uh, before pursuing media studies or before writing about media, he was a English. He was a professor of English literature. Okay. Next is McLuhan cautioned that we should step into his writings the way we step into a bath. Like it is a bathtub that it is like entering into a bathtub. The entry point is not so important because the moment later we will be in a new environment. Whether you enter in the bathtub from left, right, or you know from this side or that side, that doesn't matter. At any point you enter, but after you enter it, you find yourself in a new environment. The water gives you or transports you into a new space. So the organization of McLuhan books is more like that of a newspaper. Yet while stepping into a newspaper is inevitable, McLuhan claimed that stepping back from it to perceive it as an environment is indispensable to understanding its power and its effect. So what he is trying to say is that, like, the media, for example newspaper, it is like entering into a new environment because whether you read it from the front page or back page or the middle page, it is not very much important, but what are the effects after you read the paper, what kind of effects or impact it produces on you, it is of more important. Then you can understand its power. Okay. So McLuhan's major works are The Mechanical Bride, which was his first book in 1951, then The Gutenberg Galaxy, The Making of Typographic Man in 1962, Understanding Media in 1964, The Medium is the Message or Massage, as it was a typographical error, but later it came to be true. So he didn't bothered about correcting it. So his fourth book is The Medium is the Massage, an Inventory of Effects with Quentin Fiore, 1967. Throw the Vanishing Point with Harley Parker in 1968. From Cliche to Archetype with Wilfred Watson in 1970. Laws of Media, The New Science with Eric McLuhan in 1988. Eric McLuhan is the name of his son. So his last book was written in collaboration with his son. So these are some of his important works. You might not remember the years of all the books, but remember the names. Okay. So I.A. Richards, McLuhan's teacher in Cambridge University, where he did his BA and MA in English literature. So BA in English literature is second BA. So I.A. Richard disapproved the proper meaning superstition, the belief that word meanings are fixed and independent of their use, and he forcefully illustrated the power of words to control thought. So I.A. Richards, which was his teacher, so he disapproved this proper meaning superstition, which means what this proper meaning superstition say, that the meaning of words are fixed. Like whatever you read in a dictionary, it is the meaning of that word. But as we can also see from our experience, that it is not so, because the meaning of words is not so much in words, but rather in the context, in the connotation that we are giving to that meaning, that word. Okay. So Richards argued that thought should bring words under its control by determining meaning from context. This was the key idea of the book he wrote with C.K. Ogden called The Meaning of Meaning. You know, it is not the meaning, but what you what is that the meaning of that meaning. The idea stayed with McLuhan right through to his later writings. He said nothing has its meaning alone. A single word divorced from its linguistic ground would be useless. So you should know the linguistic ground, and nothing has meaning in, in singularity or in like alone. Like if you just say a word love, or any other word, friendship for example, but that word has meaning in the culture, in the context that we are saying to. Friendship may have a different meaning in a rural society, or it may have a different meaning in an urban society, or it may have a different meaning in American society, that than what it means in Indian society. So I hope you get it what I.A. Richards was saying. So remember this book name, The Meaning of Meaning, and what he disapproved was proper meaning superstition. Okay. So Richards viewed any act of understanding or acquiring knowledge as a matter of interpreting and reinterpreting. We first understand, then we interpret that thing, and then we reinterpret, a process he called translation. A key chapter in McLuhan's Understanding Media, the book Understanding Media, titled Media as Translators, picks up this theme. Okay. Beyond Richards, the sources of influence on McLuhan were many and varied. So, the people who influenced his works and his writings, they were many, but some of them are the French symbolist poets of the late 19th century, the Irish writer James Joyce, the English painter and writer Wyndham Lewis, Anglo-American poet and critic T.S. Eliot, American poet Ezra Pound, literary critic F.R. Lewis, Canadian economic historian Harold Innis. You can see that most of these are poets and writers and painters, because he has studied English literature and he has been an English professor. So the people who influenced him much were these critics, English literature critics. Okay, and James Joyce was one of his favorite writers. Next is, though just 25 years old when he began his teaching career, McLuhan was shocked to find a generation gap between himself and his students. Feeling an urgent need to bridge this gap, he set out to understand what he suspected as its cause, the effect of mass media on American culture. He was on his way to writing his first book, The Mechanical Bride, 1951. It is an incisive study of the effects of magazine advertising and comics. As he started his teaching career very early in the age of 25 years, but he found a generation gap between him and his students. So what he attributed this cause to, what the effect of media on American culture, mass media on American culture. So when he wrote his first book, it was on about the effect of magazine advertising and comics, which is The Mechanical Bride. Okay. McLuhan returned to Cambridge to work on a PhD. He also did his PhD, completed in 1943, on the work of the 16th century English pamphleteer and satirist Thomas Nashe. Remember, his works on PhD was on Thomas Nashe. Okay. In 1953, McLuhan founded the magazine Explorations to publish works on language and media. In 1955, he formed a company called Idea Consultants. The outfit offered a creative business advice service and promoted some innovations of its own. But these were not always big hits. So remember, the magazine that he founded was Explorations, and he also founded a company which was named Idea Consultants, in which he used to give business ideas, creative ideas to people. Okay, but these were not always big hits. He was not so successful in his business. His company was not that successful. So his next book, The Gutenberg Galaxy. If you can remember Gutenberg, the name, if you are familiar with this name, who was he? Try to answer this in the comment box. The Gutenberg Galaxy, McLuhan jolts his readers into an awareness of how books function as a medium. Galaxy won him the Canadian Governor General's Award for Non-Fiction in 1962 and established his reputation in the Western Hemisphere as a unique thinker. This book has got him the Governor General's Award. In the mid 15th century, a German gent named Johannes Gutenberg. Now, I hope you get the name Johannes Gutenberg, who invented the movable type and the which later lead to the invention of another, the printing press. So this Gutenberg Galaxy, Gutenberg here comes from the German inventor Gutenberg, Johannes Gutenberg, who invented the printing press. And in Gutenberg Galaxy, he wants to uh, tell the readers that how books functions as a medium. Okay, McLuhan explains it meant the end of manuscript culture, because when printing came, so manuscript, what was done in manuscript culture, that people used to copy the manuscripts from manually from their hand, like, and it was very time consuming. But with printing, it was easy to uh, print many copies of a single book in a short time. But other than that, it led to the mechanization of writing. Like, people first used to write with their hands, but then they used to write with their, they didn't have to write with their hands because it was the machines. Mechanization means the machine was doing the same work, which led to the promotion of nationalism and national languages, because it used to, the ideas can spread to many people at a single at a very short span of time. So this led to this an idea of nationalism, national languages. However, rather than diminish the effects of the older technology of writing, McLuhan suggests print culture intensified it. So McLuhan is not saying that writing will be, extinct. It will be destroyed, but rather print culture has intensified this writing, because many people can become literate and they can know what is going on in their surroundings and the ideas of great thinkers, philosophers. So it has rather intensified the print culture, because they would, maybe they would come up with their own ideas and they would be inclined to write them. According to McLuhan, before the invention of the alphabet, communication among humans involved all the senses simultaneously, speaking being accompanied by gestures and requiring both listening and looking. The immediacy and rich complexity of this type of communication was reduced by the alphabet to an abstract visual code. I have already covered the topic of the history of communication. You can go back to that lecture, and in that, I have tried to tell you that the first was the age of speech, where human beings used to communicate with the, like, of course, it was first the signs and symbols, then came the speech. But in the era of when speech came, when writing alphabet was not discovered, uh, when people used to speak, then other people who were receiving that message, that communication, they not only focused on that their word, but also their other senses also involved, like listening and looking. They were also listening very carefully and looking at their lips or what they are trying to say, their mind tried to grasp that sounds, okay. But this alphabet, this reduced to these words or this communication to an abstract visual code. Like for example, if you are seeing on your screen these alphabets, these English alphabets, what it has converted to my speech, what I'm trying to say is converted into these visual codes that you can look into, that you can visually look into, okay. Before writing became widespread, McLuhan claims humankind lived in acoustic space. Acoustic means sound space, the space of spoken word. This space is boundless, directionless, horizonless, and charged with emotion. Writing transformed space into something bounded, linear, ordered, structured, and rational. The written page with its edges, margins, and sharply defined letters in row after row brought about a new way of thinking about space. McLuhan claimed that portable book was like a hydrogen bomb from whose aftermath a whole new environment, the Gutenberg galaxy, emerges. Try to understand this. What he's trying to say is, before this printing was invented, before this writing was invented, people lived in acoustic spaces, in spoken word spaces. Like people used to communicate with each other with spoken words, and this spoken word also involved the usage of making use of other senses, like listening very carefully and also looking at the words so that they can grasp better. And it was, this spoken word was horizonless, directionless, and it was charged with so much emotion. But writing, what it transformed your thoughts and ideas into bounded, because when we write, we thought very much, like what it bounds our thoughts, and it becomes very linear, ordered, and structured and rational way, okay. So, and this portable book, because uh, printing helped or allowed to bind, means to confine the ideas into a book. So when these ideas were converted into a portable book, it was like a hydrogen bomb. And after, like it's and from its explosion, a new environment, which is called the Gutenberg galaxy, emerges. You know what Marshall McLuhan does is, he wants to tell us that these all these media are they transfer us into a new environment. The content which we are going to study later in this chapter, in this Marshall McLuhan unit, is that all the media, what it's create is, it creates a new environment. The content is not important, but the effect that it creates on your minds, it is important. And why this effect is created? Because it transfers you into a new environment. This invention of this printing press, and later the coming of the portable book, it allowed you to think your, to bind your thoughts, to think in a bounded way, and which was a new environment. When people used to communicate with spoken words, they used to communicate in an other way, but when writing came, then it transferred into something else. Your thoughts turned into something else, like it provided a new way to look at things. In a nutshell, McLuhan's idea is that there have been three ages of man. And remember, it is important, these three ages are important. Remember these three ages. First was the pre-literate or tribal era. In tribals, when the spoken word was a king and ear was the queen, because they were illiterate, they didn't know how to write. So in that era, spoken word was the king. People used to communicate with spoken words, and other people received it with their ears. So spoken word was the king and the ear was the queen. Then came the Gutenberg age. The printed word was the king and eye was the queen, because you are seeing with what you are perceiving the content with your eyes. Then third is the electronic age of retribalized, that's right, retribalized man, because it again involved our full sensory caused us to uh, for our full sensory participation, especially touching is believing, when all the senses are gestures at the royal court and there is no king or queen. you will get to know about this idea, this retribalized, as we study the age of television, in which McLuhan was talking about telephone, television, etc. Because in television and telephone, he called them cool media, and they are high in participation because we have to involve all our senses. I will tell you the hot and cool media concept. So, but remember these three ages: the pre-literate or tribal era, when spoken word was the king, and then Gutenberg age, when printed word was the king, then electronic age of retribalized man, when there is no king or queen. Now, his third book. I have already discussed with you the Mechanical Bride and Gutenberg Galaxy. Now, his third book. These, from exam point of view, remember the name of these three books. Understanding Media. In this book, McLuhan, and this Understanding Media is one of the very important works of Marshall McLuhan. From now on, this Understanding Media, we will study about it in very much detail. Okay. So McLuhan notes that his objective is not to offer a static theory of human communication, but to probe the effects of anything human use in dealing with the world. He wants to investigate, probe. Remember this word, probe. What the main motive of McLuhan is to understand the effects, to probe the effects of any kind of thing which human use in this world. So in this book he wrote, one must probe everything, including the words and oneself also. McLuhan called his way of thinking and investigating probes, like this English word meaning investigation. Okay, most of us think of media as a source that brings us news or information. For example, if anyone asks you about what is media, so what is the use of media, function of media? So it gives us news and information. And for if you are asked to give the examples, for example, you would say press, radio, and television. But to McLuhan, a medium, while it may often be a new technology, is any extension of our bodies. And media is not related to just news media like press, radio, television. To him, anything that extends our bodies, minds, or beings is media. So his book name is also Understanding Media, the Extension of Man. Okay. So, for example, clothing. uh, Firstly, when human beings came on earth, they didn't have any clothing concept. So what when they invented the clothing, what is this clothing? This is an extension of our skin. Housing is an extension of the body's heat control mechanism. It protects us from heat and cold. Okay. So the bicycle, the cycle that you pedal, and the car, they extend the human foot. Earlier, you people used to use their foot for walking, but now they have bicycles and car, which are their extensions. The computer extends our central nervous system, according to Marshall McLuhan. So any media, according to him, this clothing, housing, bicycle, computer are also media. So they extend our bodies, minds, and beings. By saying the medium is the message, remember this quote, the medium is the message. McLuhan forces us to re examine what we understand by both medium and message. As I already told you, what Marshall McLuhan understood by medium. To us, it is a source of information or news, but to him, it is an extension of our bodies. Okay, and what he understand about the message, what we think about message. For example, we say it is the content or information. For example, what I am studying you this about Marshall McLuhan, this is the content or information, this is the message, this is my message. But McLuhan believes that if we understand message in this way, we miss one of the most important features of media, their power to change the course and functioning of human relations and activities. So he redefined the message of a medium as any change in scale, pace, or pattern that a medium causes in societies or cultures. So the effect of media is the message. That's why he is saying medium is the message. He is saying that, for example, if you are using for social media or any other kind of media, for example, it has changed for us the meaning of love. For our parents' generation, the meaning of love was different. For us, for our generation, the meaning, the concept of love, how you express your love has changed. For example, these days, if you don't propose with a rose or a ring, or if you don't cut cake on birthdays or anniversaries, you know, you think you are people are people are not modern if they don't do such rituals. So, but why? Have you ever thought what causes us to change these our lifestyle, these rituals? The media has a big role to play. The media effects, they have a big role to play in shaping our relations with other human beings, our cultures. I hope you are getting my point, what I'm trying to say, what Marshall McLuhan is trying to say. I have already told you what is he understood by medium, that is an extension of man and our bodies, our minds and beings, and what he understood by messages, that which message is the effect that the medium produces, the effect that any medium produces in human relations and in human societies and our cultures. The reason for this new definition is that content turns out to be an illusion. You think whatever content is being produced is the king, but no, content is not the king. It is the effect, and also effect in terms of visual effect, for example, and what what your mind is perceiving, the effect your thought process is changing by that media. So it is not the content alone. I mean, it is not the content, or at least it is this content is a mask for how media interact. They work in pairs. According to Marshall McLuhan, they work in pairs. One medium contains another, and that another one contains another. Here clears his point by giving the example. For example, telegraph. Telegraph contains printed word, which contains writing and which contains speech. Okay, let us study this in reverse. First came speech. As if we you go, if you have saw my earlier lecture, then in that lecture I have told you the history of communication. Then speech came before writing. So speech, and if you see writing, what it contains, it contains speech. What I want to say, I have written, my idea has been written in a on a piece of paper. So it, writing contains speech. And what the printed word contains, writing. Okay, because what is this printed word? If you see a book in and those printed words, what they contain, writing, and writing in turn contains speech, and this printed word is contained in telegraph. Okay, so media is working in pairs. So the contained medium becomes the message of containing one. So medium is the message. I know it can be a little confusing, but whatever, try to understand whatever you can from what I'm trying to say is. But remember, these, the medium is the message, and the important works by Marshall McLuhan. Okay, if you are not able to understand this, I don't know, tell me in the comment box, I if you are getting it or not. Okay, so he said that media works in pairs, like we see in telegraph, in printed word, then writing, then speech. But are there any exceptions to this media working in pairs? Yes, McLuhan points out two media singles. First is speech and second is the electric light. Speech is the content of writing, but what is the content of speech? McLuhan answers this, that speech contains our thoughts. See, when human beings invented speech or the spoken word, before that, but what this speech contained? Their thoughts now. Like Amir Khan in PK movie says, हमारे गोला पे कोई भी ऐसे बात नहीं करता है, उनको लैंग्वेज नहीं आती है, वहां पे माइंड से बात होती है, तो इसीलिए वहां पे कोई झूठ नहीं बोल सकता. मतलब अगर आप दूसरे का माइंड पढ़ पा रहे हैं, तो आप कैसे झूठ बोलेंगे? अब हम ह्यूमन बींग्स तो नहीं एक दूसरे के थॉट्स को पढ़ सकते हैं, ना माइंड को रीड कर सकते हैं. हाँ, कुछ लोग हैं ऐसा, मतलब जैसे एक आजकल वो हैं, बड़ी पॉपुलर है वो, सुहानी सुहानी शाह, आई थिंक उनका नाम है. तो लेकिन इन जनरल, मतलब ह्यूमन बींग्स, हम वी कांट रीड अदर पीपल्स माइंड. बट what we, so for that, so that we can understand each other, what we invented first was Speech, spoken word. So, what speech contains thought, but here the chain of media ends. Thought is non-verbal and pure process. Thought doesn't, beyond thought, there is no media. So, speech is a pure media single. Then, second pure thing is message free medium is the electric light. Artificial light, the bulb that you see in your homes or the tube lights that you see. Artificial light permits activities that could not be conducted in the dark. Okay, these activities can be thought of as the content of light, but light itself contains no other medium. For example, if there is no light, I wouldn't be teaching you here because it is the I am shooting this video at around 6:30 p.m. and it is like twilight time. But if there is no light, I wouldn't have I wouldn't be able to record this. So my activities, this light is permitting my activities, but this light is not containing another medium. So whether message containing or message free, all of the above examples reinforce McLuhan's point that media change the form of human relations and activities. Like the electric light, I told you that media, according to McLuhan, media is anything that extends man, okay, extends our bodies, our minds. So I told you that clothing is also a media, a computer is also a media for McLuhan. So the electric light is also a media. So it is a message free media, but other like telegraph was a message containing media. So what McLuhan is trying to say is that all these media has the power to change human relations and activities. For example, before electric light was invented, we were not able to do things that we are able to do because of the dark, in the dark, okay. So it has changed our type of activities. It permits us to do activities that were not earlier possible. So other many other all other media have also changed the form of human relations also, like I told you, the concept of love, the concept of how what is the meaning of being a good mother or being a good father. It has changed what is it means to be a good friend. It has changed the human form of human relations. Earlier we used to, like for example, before the invention of this social media and smartphones, how our friendships flourished, what we talked about, like friends they went out for a hangout, or they went for a walk, evening walk, or etc., or their talk were different, their topics of conversation were different. But now मीडिया वी मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स वी टॉक अबाउट मीडिया, लाइक आप तुमने कौन सी नेटफ्लिक्स पे कौन सी मूवी देखी, तुमने कौन सी रील शेयर करी. Our interactions have also changed, our relations have also changed. I hope you are getting my point. So in understanding media, in the book Understanding Media, he also talks about media gains and losses. The technology of the age of acoustic space, spoken word, that is, the technology that later gave writing, print, telegraph was speech. Okay, of course, first came speech, then came writing, then came printed word, then came telegraph, then of other things like radio, television. Then it is the age of internet and computers and social media, etc. So, what was this? The first loss which all these inventions caused. Transformed into writing, speech lost the quality it had in the age of acoustic space. It acquired a powerful visual bias because when writing was not invented, we human beings used to focus so much, concentrate on so much that what the other person is trying to say. For example, we had the tradition of oral education, in which our sages and rishi muni, they used to transfer their knowledge orally to their disciples. I hope you have heard this concept. And so our mind was very much active. But when writing was discovered, it this knowledge acquired a powerful visual bias because visual, our eyes, only eyes focused on what has been written. So first loss was speech lost the quality it had in acoustic space, that was in the age of acoustic space. Second loss was writing separated speech from the other physical senses, because I was telling you that in while spoken word was the king, we used to involve all our physical senses in understanding what the other person is trying to say. But in writing we just used our eye. Later, the powerful extension of speech permitted by the development of radio produced a third loss. Speech was reduced to one sense, the auditory oral. We now, if you listen to the radio, we only use our one sense, that is only our ears. Radio is not speech. You may think that it is also spoken word, like we are making use of our ears, but we only listen. It creates an illusion like writing of containing speech, but we only listen to the content. But in the age of acoustic space, that was our first loss, we used to involve all our physical senses. So the final score here is one gain and three losses, but we think of the invention of radio as if it were a net gain. No, it is a net loss if you see it from McLuhan's point of view. You have one gain, that is radio, but three losses. Speech lost its quality, it acquired a visual bias. Then, second is that it writing separated speech from other physical senses because we are not involving our other physical senses. Okay. Third loss is only speech is reduced to only one sense, auditory, oral. Other senses are not involved. So there are three losses. Now the concept of hot and cool media. It is the question from this topic can be asked. It is an important topic. And also remember, this hot and cool media concept is given by Marshall McLuhan. Okay. Uh, okay. Just a second. Okay. So hot and cool media. What is hot media? High. Remember, you can associate this hot media with high definition. It means well defined. You know, these HD TV, you have heard the concept of HD TV, high definition TV. These days it has come, but in McLuhan's time it was not there were no high definition TVs. So he called it cool media. So anyway, back to the concept. Again, try to understand what is hot media. Hot media is high definition. What is high definition? Which is highly defined, which is well defined, sharp, solid, detailed, etc., in reference to anything visual. If you are seeing anything visually, for example, then it should be clearly visible. It should be sharp, detailed, so that by just looking at it you can understand what is this. Okay. Whatever visual thing is presented to you, if you are able to understand it well, then it is hot media according to Marshall McLuhan. And what is hot media? It is high definition media. So according to McLuhan, examples of hot media are, for example, letters of an alphabet, numbers, photographs, and maps are high definition objects. In alphabet, for example, it is clearly written. You can understand what is alpha, A, L, P, H, A, B, E, T. So it is high definition. Then numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, they are high definition. Photographs, maps, they are high definition because you can, just by looking at it, you can see what is written. It is sharp, well defined, solid. It gives a lot of information and gives us little to do. Because alphabet, if you understand what is an alphabet, if you can read an alphabet, so you can, just by looking at it, you can understand what is written. For example, this maps, just by looking at it you can understand maps. It is maps, it is written maps. So we don't have to apply so much of our mind. It gives a lot of information to us. High definition media gives a lot of information to us. So remember, that when McLuhan speaks of the information that a medium transmits, he's not referring to facts or knowledge. Okay, rather he is referring to how our physical senses respond to or participate in media. So information is not like the information that you understand, that facts or knowledge, but he is referring to how physical senses respond to. In high definition media, it is low in participation. Hot media is low in participation. Why? Because it gives us lot of information already. Like, our physical senses are low in participation means our physical senses don't have to participate much. Participation does not refer primarily to intellectual involvement, but like definition and information to how a medium engages our physical senses. Let me again tell you what is this. Remember, hot media is high definition. High definition, which is well defined, sharp, solid. Just by looking at it, we can understand what is written. So examples of this is alphabet, numbers, photographs, and maps. And in this, if we can just by looking at it, we can understand. So we don't have to apply all our senses. We don't. Our senses, physical senses, have low participation. So for example, radio, your ear, just by involvement of your ear, you can understand. Print, in print media, for example, in a newspaper, what you can easily read what is written. The photo, you can just by looking at a photo, you can understand what who the people in the photograph are, what is it about. Movies are also high definition, and lectures are also high definition. According to McLuhan, these are some examples of some hot media. They are high definition. Okay, HH, high definition, hot, high definition. So these and are, but remember, our physical senses are low in participation because they do not engage our physical senses so much. Okay, then is the concept of cool media, forms and shapes and images that are not so distinct, like sketches and cartoons. Cartoons, we have to involve our physical senses a little more than a photograph. For example, in comparison to a photograph, just by looking at a photograph, you can understand what is there in that photograph. But from sketches and cartoons, we have to apply our mind and our physical senses also. We have to concentrate to understand that cartoon or sketch. So they are low definition. Low definition means, for example, in television, let me tell you the examples of cool media first. For example, telephone, speech, cartoon, television, seminar. Television, these days we have high definition television in which everything is clear, but in McLuhan's time, there was no sharp images on television. So the viewers have to concentrate much on their screens to understand what is being portrayed, what is being displayed on on their screen. And cartoon, as I told you, we have to apply our physical senses much. Telephone also, sometimes these days also, if there is network problem or the other things, we say hello, hello, आवाज नहीं आ रही है. We have to, you know, like we have to be alert to make out what that the other person is trying to convey us. Okay, so they are low definition. Low definition means they are not that sharp, they are not that well defined. Only a little information is given. For example, in a cartoon or sketch, only a little information is given. We have to apply our mind, our other physical senses to understand these things. So they are high in participation. High in participation means our physical senses are highly involved in that media. Okay, so since he was delivering his message in Gutenberg Galaxy and understanding media via medium, the printed page, for example, in the books that he has written, outmoded by the electronic media age, McLuhan adopted a style called mosaic writing that attempts to mimic the disconnected low definition coolness of television. So to make his point more clear, he adopted the mosaic writing style. Remember this. So mosaic means mosaic. If you just Google this word mosaic, what mosaic writing means, then it resembles to the disconnected low definition coolness of television in McLuhan's time, because pictures were not that clear. That pixels that we see on television, the dots, that were not that clear. So in his book also, he has written in a mosaic style. Okay, if you ever happen to read any of McLuhan's work, you can see that. So what is the McLuhan's primer means, it is like a, what was his take on different things. What from till now, what we can infer is that he has no fixed viewpoint. He is open to be flexible, he is open to new things. So for example, in while he was teaching his students, he found a generation gap, and he found the cause, or that the cause of that thing was that generation gap was the effect of media on American culture. Okay, American people. So to understand that uh, thing, he wrote his first book, The Mechanical Bride. in which he tried to understand the effect of advertisements and comics. Okay, media comics. Okay, so he has no fixed viewpoint. He himself says you can read my books from any chapter, any page. He and to uh, to read his works is like entering into a bathtub. The entry point is not important, but once you enter into it, you get yourself into a new environment. Okay, so he has no fixed viewpoint, no complex sequential argument. He says thing in a simple way, but for us we may find it difficult or complex. No thesis developed over a number of chapters. He himself says that I am not a theorist. I'm not here to give big theories of communication. Rather, I am trying to make you understand the effects of media so that you can control that media rather than media controlling you. So another point is no reliance on linear structure. Okay, nothing is linear. Everything is a dynamic process, non-linear process. Step into understanding media the way you step into a bath. The entry point is of no importance. Okay, so till now what we have read is, okay, he was a Canadian professor of English before he published his Understanding Media: The Extensions of Men in 1964. Then, from exam point of view, what is important is the name of his important works: Mechanical Bride, Gutenberg Galaxy, Understanding Media, Mediumism, Massage, Through the Vanishing Point, Cliche to Archetype, Laws of Media. Till now, we have got an idea of Mechanical Bride, Gutenberg Galaxy, and Understanding Media. We are still studying. And then his teachers, I.A. Richards, who illustrated the power of words to control thought. His one of his book is Meaning of Meaning, that we interpret and reinterpret things. And apart from I.A. Richards, the name of some people who has big influence on Marshall McLuhan. Most of the people are poets. Then, okay, he did his PhD on Thomas Nashe, who was an English pamphleteer and satirist. He McLuhan also founded a book magazine, Exploration. Then he also made a company called Idea Consultants. Then we read about Gutenberg Galaxy, and then we in which he told about three ages of man: pre-literate or tribal era, Gutenberg age, electronic age of retribalized men. Then we have now come to understanding media. Probe, he wanted to probe everything, probe the effects of media. He called medium is the message. Medium is, what is medium? It is any extension of man. Then clothing, for example, is the extension of skin. Computer is of central nervous system. Then content, what he understands by the term medium and content. Content is not the information. Message is not the content or information. Message is the effect that a media has on people. Okay. Then media always occurs in pairs, work in pairs, but only there are two examples of media singles, that are speech and electric light. Then media gains and losses. Invention of radio led to the loss of three things: hot media. Then the concept of hot media and cool media. Hot is high definition, cool is low definition. Examples of hot media: radio, print, photo, movies, lectures. Then cool media examples: telephone, speech, cartoon, television, seminar. Okay. And what are the McLuhan's primer? No fixed point. Stepping into understanding media is the way you step into a bath. No reliance on linear structure, no thesis development, no complex argument. Okay. uh, we will cover this McLuhan topics in two videos. This is the first video, and second I am going to upload soon, so stay tuned. And if you have anything to say about my teaching, about the way I am teaching you, you can tell me in the comment sections. And I would love to hear, to hear the feedback from you. Okay, till then, take care. Goodbye. Okay.